Hello, my people, mi pueblo, my people, mi pueblo, my people, my people. Hello, my people. So, this came up again for me recently, and I wanted to share it with you. This idea is an opportunity, really. It's not really an idea, it's an opportunity that has benefited me, And once I learned about it, I may have shared with a couple of other people the idea. Like a couple of people that I share with, they was like, "Oh, that makes sense and it sounds like it would work, but it wouldn't benefit me because I'm not in that situation, specifically student loan situation." Some of the people I shared it with, they didn't actually have student loans, so they was like, "Cool, thanks for the share, but I don't have student loans, so it doesn't matter to me." And then a couple of the other people that I shared it with, they was like, "Okay, well." Doubt question after doubt question, like, well, how that work and how come that didn't work, or what does that mean, or what does this do? In order for me to really give you perspective, I got to tell you the whole story. All right, so years ago, about maybe 10, 12 years ago, I was working in a bar, Fulton County, Sandy Springs, Georgia, right? And I was working in the bar, and this sister walks in a business suit, sits at the bar. We start chatting, and come to find out that she had just passed the bar exam. She had just passed it. She was excited, like, "Oh, yeah, I just passed the bar exam." I'm like, "Oh, that is so cool! Congratulations, congratulations!" And so I'm looking at her, and I'm like, "You're not, no, that's not how I asked it." I looked at her, and I was like, "This is not your first career as a lawyer, right?" Because she clearly wasn't like 25, the common age to had just passed the bar for new law students. And she's like, no, you're right. I'm returning. This is a new career for me. This is the second career for me. I was like, "Oh, is that right?" She's like, "Yeah, I was in journalism and I decided to go and get my law degree." I was like, "Oh, that's what's up." And I mentioned, I was like, "Well, I had thought about law school once upon a time when I was, younger." She's like, "I'm 40 something." I think she was 45. "And I just graduated the bar at 45. You can go back to law school at any time." And I was like, "Well, yeah." And I was anyway, I was like, "Well, another excuse or reason why I couldn't even think about it. Got these student loans, and it's just this looming thing. And it's hard for me to even think about school with these student loan situations." She was like, "Let me tell you, the reason why I went to law school, decided to go back to graduate school in the first place, was to take care of my student loans." I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" She's like, "Well, there's a rule. And then the rule is that if you are in graduate school, your undergraduate student loans they're pushed to the side." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Really?" She said, "Yeah, but here's the thing." She explained to me that her decision to go to law school was to find out through studying law as a law student how to get rid of her student loans. I was like, "What?" She's like, "Yeah, I went to law school so I can figure out how to get rid of my student loans." And I said, "Well, you just passed the bar. How'd that work out for you?" She says, "Take out a pen." And I was like, "Okay." She gave me a very specific set of instructions, and I followed those instructions to the T. I didn't doubt them, question them. At one point, I said to myself, is this risky? I did ask myself about the risk factor at the time for one brief second, but then I thought to myself, well, the way that I'm doing it and the way she told me to do it, the risks are really nominal. Like, either it'll work or it won't work. Like, I'll either get approved or I won't get approved. There's no risk. What is the risk? That they'll say no? So I followed her instructions to the T, and I haven't gotten a letter from my student loan servicer, the Department of Education. I haven't heard a word about my student loans since. It doesn't show up on Credit Karma. My credit score shot up. I took full benefit of my student loans being forgiven. So, what's the difference between what she advised me and what information is publicly available. One thing that I noticed, right, is when I started Googling, when I started doing Google searches for this particular program, it's called the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, PSLF. When I started looking into this PSLF program, I would get, and she told me this at the time when we talked about this. She says, if you look into the program, if you Google it, you'll notice that all of the responses, like the first handful of replies that you get from Google, or the top responses from Google that you get when you Google PSLF or Public Service Loan Forgiveness, are ads. They're ads. The first hit, ad. Second hit, ad. Third hit, ad. They're ads after ad after ad after ad after ad after ad. And if you scroll through, if you look, because each one that's an ad, it'll say right there on the Google response that it's an ad. It clearly says that it's an ad, right? And if you scroll through those ads and keep scrolling, and keep scrolling, and keep scrolling until the first entry you find that's not an ad, look at it closely and see if it's a .gov website. If it is, that's your resource. If it's not, scroll just a little bit further. And eventually you'll see a .gov response to that query. And then go look at that information. And you'll see that that information correlates with what I'm telling you as a strategy. So I did that. And she was right. And if you do it right now, you'll see ad after ad after ad. And I thought about that for a minute. And it just made logical sense. The advertising is paid advertisement. Federal government doesn't pay for advertising on, federal government doesn't pay to advertise a program on any resource. The news covers the program and announces it on the news, maybe. The other nonprofit organizations may take on the mantle of paying for ads to inform people about the program, maybe, right? But the top ads on a Google search for a federal program being ads, you have to ask the question, who would pay for those ads? Well, the answer to the question is pretty straightforward once you start to click through those ads. And what you'll see is once you start clicking through the ads, there's the information turns you around and puts you into consolidation programs, forbearance programs, refinance programs. And all of those programs are programs that are owned or managed by, I should say, the loan servicing agencies, the entities that actually take your payments. Now, those entities benefit from taking those payments because they are taking your payments. And every time they take a payment for your student loan, they get some lunch money. Every payment they receive, they get lunch money. And when you stop sending in payments, they stop getting lunch money. So their ads are to ensure that they get paid. That's what all companies do ads for. Every company in existence creates ads and pays for ads so that they can get a return on their investment. It's an investment. All ads are investments. All right. So now that that's clear, it's clear to understand that any ad that's advertising a loan forgiveness program is really redirecting you into another profit center for that ad purchaser. Period. Point blank. No two ways about it. That's all it is to it. So when you scroll through and you find the first link, the first result in your Google search results that is not an ad, and also has a .gov domain attached to it, you will see studentaid.gov. And if you go to studentaid.gov, you will see, if you search within studentaid.gov, you will see the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. And in the description for the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program, it gives a very clear description on how the program works and how to qualify for the program. It's very, and the beautiful part is that it is super short. It's not 20 pages worth of legislative jargon. It's not 18 pages worth of solidity code. It's nothing like that. It's a 2-paragraph, maybe really even 2-sentence explanation about how this program works and how you qualify and how to submit for the program. Period, point blank. And what the strategy, now here's the thing, here's a caveat. At the time that I got the information that I got and I submitted my application for loan forgiveness, the rules were pre-pandemic. They were pre-Joe Biden administration. And since then, during this pandemic, there was a significant push to completely wipe out student loan debt for all student loan. There was a significant push to wipe out student loan debt within the administration. It was part of their rhetoric, right? But on the flip side, you got to think about it. How does politics work? And in order for Joe Biden and whomever else to get any traction with their administration, they need their investors. They're not called investors. They're called lobbyists. And who are the lobbyists? The lobbyists are the entities that give money to pay for ads to get a return on their investment. So they are paying, and so who the lobbyists? The lobbyists range from pharmaceutical entities all the way to financial entities, including student aid loan servicers. They lobby as well. So it's a catch-22 for them. Here it is that they want this guy to get in because they clear the way for certain other things, but then they don't want him talking about the thing that's going to keep their pockets a little more shallow. It's a catch-22. Everybody wants to get rid of student loans except for the people that's making money off of the program. Now, don't get it twisted. Student loans are guaranteed loans. The companies that benefit from the student loan programs, they don't risk their money. Their money is completely riskless. Their money, when a student loan company gives a student money for their student aid, because that's what it is, it's student aid, not student loans. When in one of these financial companies share funds or sign a promissory note with a student for financial aid, that student promises to pay that back. And if by chance that student ever defaults, that money is paid back. It's always paid back. Even if the student pays it back, the government pays it back. It's guaranteed by the federal government. So the federal government has already guaranteed every loan ever underwritten for student education. Every loan ever underwritten under a federal student aid program is already guaranteed by the student federal aid program. So the companies that actually provide the lending are making money when you do and when you don't pay it back. If you default, when a default occurs, they get paid all of their money, plus the interests. They eat. But if you keep sending them money, they'll take that too. Legally, they can and do. And so goes this everlasting problem, or this pandemic of its own called the student loan debacle. Right. So your guys in politics, they can't tell you exactly where to go to get it done. They can't give you the clear route to initiation to success for this particular program, because it doesn't necessarily work directly in alignment with what they already have. And when it's time for legislation to happen and says, let's create a new law that abolishes all student loans, the politics on the other side of that agenda are going to say, but we already have a program that offers opportunity for people to forgive their loans. Why do we need to create new legislation to do something that we already done? That's redundant. That doesn't support government, really. The voice is really being pushed by the loan servicers who don't want those programs to go away. But the truth, the political rhetoric is true. Is why would we need a program to do what we have a program to do? Okay, so the question goes is, are Americans taking advantage of the program, or are they not? So when I tell people about the program, the first thing they tell me is it legal? And it was something about those same sets of questions that kind of wanted to pop up in my head when I first learned about this strategy. I asked some questions like this. I didn't never ask the question, is it legal? My assumption that it was completely legal because I was getting the information from someone who had just passed the bar, literally moments before I got the information. So the assumption that it was legal was there. Was it a valid assumption? Maybe someone could say that was it was naive to assume, and I would not disagree with that. To a certain degree, it may have been a little bit of naivety to take the advice of someone who had just passed the bar, right? But the simplicity of the advice was irrefutable, and the information on the federal website, all it did was reinforce the advice, and so I took the advice. I submitted my application in the way that I was advised using this specific strategy, and guess what? It worked. So, I recently was talking to a friend who was doing some refinancing of her home and ran into some issues because of her student loans. And I reminded her, I told you about this about 10 years ago, about how to take care of that. And she's like, yeah, you did. And I was like, yeah. She said, well, how does that work for you? I said, and I showed her my Credit Karma. I showed her my Credit Karma report. This was the amount that I was being asked. It was over $120,000. That's what my debt was, with all of the forbearance and the deferments and all the add-ons and fees. It wasn't interest. It was all fees. And some of it was interest. And it just was all just, and I borrowed less than half of that. I borrowed less than half of that as student aid. And anyway, after sharing that with her again, she was like, you need to tell other people about this. You need to help other people with this. And I was like, yeah, I can only help someone who wants to be helped, because it requires for you, I can't do it for you, so to speak, right? Because of how this particular strategy works. It has to be done. It has to be done yourself. But what I can do is walk you through it. I can talk you through it. I can give you the information as I have used it and it has worked for me. And I am willing to do that. And so call this an introductory video, if you like. I'm creating this video now to let folk know that this is what I have. If you are interested at all, you can go to Facebook, and you can find me at facebook.com/Sankofa Brokers, right? And link with me there. Send me contact information there, and I will put you in alignment with this strategy. We can talk about the details. We can do a brief. I'm offering 2 consultations, a brief conversation, which is a 10-minute consultation, where in that 10-minute chat, I will explain to you how this strategy works. And then I'm offering a more expansive consultation that helps with the full structuring of the application. And that's where I walk you through the whole thing, all the way through to completion. So, hey, this is the first time I've ever done anything like this especially on this channel. But I hope it's received, and I hope folk take the benefit from it. All right. So this is This boy Adeleke, and I'm out. Let's talk more about it. Be blessed and keep stacking chips for the benefit of your great grandchildren, right? Generational wealth, here we come.